Stay here. Curveball up, and he went into it.
He did?
Yes, he did.
You sure not?
I am 100% positive. Ball? No. You stick it out, you're not going to get it, all right? Stick it out, you're not going to get it.
How in the world did he also throw?
Because he's standing in front of the plate, out of the box, clear in front of the plate.
He was not out of the box.
Okay, that's what we got, Elliot. We're done talking. I know it. If you continue to follow me, I will eject you from the game.
Nobody said umpiring was easy, as each of you can tell from the previous clips. Being able to manage the different personalities among players and coaches is the single most important factor to being a successful baseball umpire. There is no single book or no single manual to read that will prepare you for what can happen on a baseball field. As a famous baseball announcer once said,
"The more you're around this game, the more you realize that there's a lot you haven't seen when you followed baseball. I don't care how many years you watched the game."
I'm Tom Heiler, the Director of Baseball Umpire Training for the NCAA, and I welcome you this year for another edition of our Handling Situations video. This video will assist collegiate umpires in preparing themselves for the upcoming season. Our format this year will be simple. We are dividing everyone into 3 groups, and each group will receive 2 clips. We will give each group ample time to prepare their response to each of the situations. The final video that is produced and distributed on DVDs this year will also have an NCAA staff response to each of the 6 situations. Let's get started. Quite a few things take place in this video. There was no fair foul decision for the home plate umpire to make. A Division I collegiate umpire is expected to know that not only is there a runner crossing the plate, but a primary responsibility for any home plate umpire is to be in position to judge any potential runner's lane interference. This umpire did not adhere to the training that was provided last season during our clinics in regards to situations like this. Once this umpire realized there was no play at the plate, he should have been first base line extended. This play involves a clear-cut case of runner's lane interference. This runner ran illegally the entire way to first base. He is not allowed to be in fair territory to touch the bag for his last step and a reach if he was running illegally prior to that. Next, in regards to how the situation was handled, the home plate umpire did a good job of taking the initial conversation with the head coach. The home plate umpire has only one of two choices now at this point. He can own the call and inform the coach that although he did not have runner's lane interference, none of his partners are in a position to offer any assistance on this call. Or he can get the entire crew together to discuss this play. It is very unlikely that the first base umpire was in any kind of a position to offer any assistance. What the home plate umpire cannot do is to allow the coach to go down alone to the first base umpire after first talking with him, even if that umpire is the crew chief. There are only two choices here. The home plate umpire lives with the call or get the entire crew together. The first base umpire should not have had any discussion with the head coach alone. If the home plate umpire made a rookie mistake and allowed the coach to go to first base, then as soon as the coach starts walking towards him at first base, he should stop this and inform the coach that the entire crew will get together and that he needs to go back to the dugout by rule. Lastly, what decision was made after the crew got together? There needs to be an out or safe call made by the home plate umpire as he's breaking this huddle. This mechanic should have been discussed before the crew broke the huddle. Obviously, the intent of this video is to judge the play that took place between first and second base. Your only two choices here are to call the runner safe for no tag being applied, or to call the runner out for being out of the baseline. If you watch the play very carefully, I believe you will agree that the runner started to go towards the infield to initially avoid interfering with the fielder. The play then turned into a swipe tag being attempted on the runner. At the moment the fielder was trying to tag the runner, had the runner gone more than 3 feet, a step and a reach, out of the baseline to avoid the tag. I think the most important element on this play is for the second base umpire not to get in a hurry and react too quickly to the fact that a tag was not applied. Slow down, take a second look at the play in your mind, and also determine if the runner has gone out of the baseline. Many times, umpires in this situation don't slow their timing down and take the runner's base path into consideration, and therefore only end up judging whether the tag was applied or not. In this clip, let's start things off and notice that the home plate umpire did not adjust to the catcher's secondary position. After the catcher repositions himself, the home plate umpire needs to be in the slot between the catcher and the hitter and not off the outside shoulder of the catcher. Obviously, this is a missed call at first base. I thought the first base umpire did a good job of staying calm and certainly could have been lured into a heated battle with the player and the first base coach. Perhaps even the first base coach could have been ejected. The crew chief is the home plate umpire, and I applaud him for coming down to first base and keeping the players and assistant coaches away from the first base umpire. The home plate umpire calmly discussed the play with the head coach. Lastly, and perhaps the biggest concern with this clip, is what the second base umpire does. He is not the crew chief, and there is absolutely no need for him to come over and get into this situation. If the first base umpire and head coach are taking too long, then this is a decision for the crew chief to handle himself and not another member of the crew. This clip for me is very simple. That's nothing. This runner was running to home plate, and the catcher was going directly after the ball. Neither of them did anything other than exactly what they're supposed to be doing on this play. The runner had no time to readjust his base path, and he actually, at the last second, tried to avoid making any kind of malicious contact with the catcher. Again, by rule, in this situation, this is nothing. The catcher, in this situation, is entitled to go where he needs to go to catch the baseball to make the play. In other terms, the catcher is in the act of fielding a thrown ball, but is not protected in this situation, and that's why there is nothing. This clip has a runner going from second to third base on the batted ball. I can't tell from the video whether there was actually interference or obstruction on this play. After the play was over, the head coach for the offensive team went out to the home plate umpire and asked the crew to get together to determine if, in fact, there was interference by the runner. The crew did a good job of getting together and also did a good job of sending the offensive coach back to the dugout. Now, this is where things start to melt down. After the discussion among the crew, the first base umpire signaled safe, indicating there was no interference on the play. As you watch the video, you'll see the first base umpire do something that he should not have done. He decided to be a really nice guy and go back over to the first base dugout and offer some additional information as to why interference was not called. Unfortunately, this was a poor decision and one that violates our own policy of requesting a coach not being allowed to further discuss the call when it's not reversed. Well, this didn't work out so well. Now that the first base umpire lets the offensive coach go clear back out onto the field and actually go after the third base umpire. We know that the first base umpire should not have gone back to the dugout, but he also should have been the first one to eject the coach for going back out onto the field well before he even got to the first base foul line. I do applaud the third base umpire for ejecting the coach and would also add that it is unacceptable for a coach in this situation to mimic the third base umpire's ejection signal, and that should be dealt with by the conference office and noted accordingly in your ejection report. Here is a play from last season's College World Series in Omaha. Do you have runner's interference on this play? If so, why? Was the runner running illegally the last 45 feet to first base? Also, do you think the home plate umpire did a good enough job to get his head back to the foul line after judging this ball being fair in order to be able to judge the runner's lane? The answer here is yes. Secondly, did the catcher make a quality throw to first base? If you answered yes, then you would have interference. If you had answered no, then you don't have interference. We may have some differences of opinions on this play as there's a lot of judgment involved here. But in my mind, the runner was running illegally the last 45 feet. There's no doubt about that. I would give the benefit of the doubt to the defensive team and say that had this runner not been running illegally the last 45 feet to first base, that the first baseman could have easily fielded this ball, and therefore the runner would have been out. The runner running illegally made it so that the fielder could not field the ball.